Don't you dare say what.
I don't even know what their name was,
okay.
but we were sitting there, and I was like, this might be some of the worst live music I've ever heard.
Well, listen.
This is wild.
It's
But
not
it is
easy
what
to
it
get
is.
that coveted Bedford Strawberry Festival spot.
I see that.
They really went in on it.
I mean, it was fine. It's background noise. It's not like, they weren't drawing a crowd. There were definitely some drunk fans.
Drunk on strawberry wine, probably.
There was no strawberry wine.
Of course.
Interesting enough. They had a beer tent.
Jay texted me and said, please tell Mary that the real Strawberry Festival is in my hometown of Buckhannon, West Virginia.
Oh.
I bet that's what put them on the map, right?
How dare I?
You should go to that.
I should.
It's an 8-hour drive from Astoria, you coward.
Not
Get in
that
the car
far.
and go.
Not that far.
All right. Well, the one out here in Kirtland with the Kiwanis, that's, perfect. That's Thursday.
Oh, great.
Just go-
2 days from now. Just got back this
Just
morning.
come back.
7 a.m., 8 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay. And then Mary was worried that I was going to get saved because I
Not
said
worried.
We're hoping.
You
By the
went-
way, and I take by the way, when people say that, that implies I need to be saved or that anybody needs to be saved.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not.
Saved. You've been saved from
Yeah,
what?
That's just the terminology.
Well, but
How
words
would you like
mean
me to say
something.
it? How would you
Words
like me to
mean
say it?
no.
But that's why.
When
But
people
that's what they're saying
yes,
is you're saved your soul.
That's right. I don't need to be saved. Perfect. She
Do I sound
nailed
just
it.
like her?
You sound exactly like whoever sang that song. Yes.
All I'm saying is, crazy things happen in church. You go in there
Not
and
in this church.
you hear something that you're like, ooh, it like punches you in the gut and it resonates, and you're like, gotta live different, man. I gotta live different.
No. There's not one single thing I'm going to learn in there that I didn't already know
Just maybe
through
you're not open to it
12
yet.
years of Catholic school. Going to
Well,
my mom
okay.
taking us to morning mass daily, kindergarten through 8th grade. I went to
Right.
mass every day,
But
6
you're
days
not-
a week.
You're not 11 anymore. So
No,
when
that's
you
why I'm
hear
not
it-
Catholic.
But when you hear it through 52-year-old ears with different life experiences, that maybe you process it a little different. And that, you know
No.
what, man, you didn't. And that's cool. That's great. You went. You had some time with your family.
No, that's what it was for.
Everything's great.
Nope. When I sit there and they're talking, this is what I hear. Yep. Might as well be that.
Okay.
And it's fine. Whatever, it gives comfort to my mother, and that's the most important thing.
Right.
And she and I went out to the cemetery for a bit after that. And, my dad is buried a couple of rows away from my mom's parents. So I went over to see my grandparents.
You talked to him?
Yeah, a little bit, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you give your
put
mom
down some flowers and
time? Like you each had a little time to yourself, or you just kind of shared a
No,
memory?
right
or
there.
What do you guys
No.
do there?
And it's not a lot of, it's been 2 years, which is not a long time. And so most of it is me kind of talking my mom off the ledge because she somehow got it in her head that she's supposed to be farther along than she is or something. I don't know. And I go, there's no timeline on this. I'm like, Dad died 2 years ago,
And they were together, 60 or something
50
like that?
years. They were
Yeah,
married for
come
50 years.
on.
I'm like, Grandma, because my grandfather died when my mom was 29. So she was young. And I said, girls, I have a good friend whose dad just passed away, and she's young. I said, girls never get enough time with their fathers, no matter how long they live. No matter how long your dad lives, if you're a girl and you've got a good relationship with your dad, they never live long enough. So I'm like, you're not on some timeline where you've got to be, I said, I don't know what you're thinking. She's got her Chihuahua, she's she's not in the house. And thank God for that stupid dog.
For real.
Because otherwise it would be my mom alone in the house. And, and she's fully aware of that. And again, my siblings are around. And so it's.
Does she take it on walks and stuff? Like, is she active
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
it? Or,
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, that's great.
All
At
the
least it
time.
gets her, out of the house every
Yeah.
day and
Yeah, my mom's
moving.
active. Yep. But before my mom got to my brother's house, it was just me and my siblings sitting around. And I was talking to my sister about how mom doesn't, I always have to text my mom. I go, she never texts me. So I have to, and my sister's like, gee, what's that like? I got to get on that program because they're all there. So when she
Yeah.
needs something, she hits them up, right? I'm a couple states away. So I always have to hit my mom up. She won't hit me up out of the blue. But no, it was fine. It was a lot of driving, but I'm obviously glad I went. I wasn't going to miss it. So
When you go home like that, do you feel, your mom's getting older, right? And everything like that. Do you feel like a want or a pull to be back there? Like you
Oh,
didn't
I
see
would
your
love to be
dad
back
as
home.
much. Yeah, that's why I was like, if that coming home makes you feel like, damn, I either got to get out here more, or, you were saying there's never enough time. Like,
Well,
I always feel like weekends where you have some kind of a family, not you, the royal you, where it's in a family event revolving around a death, I always end up feeling like, you know what, we should all move to the same house. Everybody should live together.
nothing like that. No.
Right.
I've been gone so long, but it's like, but when I got hired and at a radio station at home and moved back in 06, that was the end of the only plan I had ever had when I started radio. Because you're going to be working in these little towns and hopefully moving your way up. The only plan I ever had was get back home, get on the air back home. I had no plan after that. I never planned on leaving. Well, fate took a different turn, and so it didn't work out that way. And so you got to go somewhere else. But yeah, no, every time I'm around my family, I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's never a bad time. It's great.
Right.
But I'm always kind of the outsider too.
But yeah, that's my point.
Because
that
I'm not
you
looped
wouldn't
in on
have to
everything.
be. Yeah.
Well, no, yes, that would be great. Ideally, that would be great.
Yeah.
But,
It's not how it goes.
I'm not working there. I'm working here.
No,
So,
I totally get that, man. We're getting together for 4th of July at my brother's house down near Columbus. It's a city called Lancaster, and it's a little hillbilly town. But they blow out, I think, their entire Parks and Rec budget on 4th of July every year because they have an insane fireworks display and a crazy parade. I'm like, this has to be all of the money that the city's ever made. But we get together every year down there, and I'm looking forward to it this year. And I'm like, and every single year it does feel like, damn. You know what I mean? Like, where you just get that kind of, I don't know how to describe it other than a feeling of like, we're getting older. My brothers are in their 40s now. My mom's in her late 60s, where it's like, we should all just move to the same city
well,
again.
but it's also important to recognize that there's a novelty in that too.
Yeah, that it won't
It's
feel
when
like
you're
that.
around them all the time where you go, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it a few more days and be like, oh, no.
Yeah,
I
twice a
got to get the
year.
hell out of here. But also, it's also a matter of, for me, the hard part will be staying connected to my siblings after my mom dies. Because, your parents are kind of the connective tissue when you have siblings. You're like, oh, you got to do this for mom. You got to do that. When it's just the siblings, because everybody's got their own lives, if you have a good relationship with your parents, going to your parents' house, whether it's one of them or both of them, that's like a central location, right? But when the parents are gone, then you have to make a concerted effort to stay in touch or connected to your siblings, your other family members, because everybody's off doing their own thing. Like,
I feel like it was opposite for my family. Like, nobody really, we'd see each other at Christmas or Thanksgiving. Whenever everybody came up, we'd see each other maybe once a year, but nobody talked between that. We didn't have like a sibling group chat. We did, but we weren't like active in it. And everybody was doing their own thing. And then after my dad died, I feel like in the last 3 years, it's been way more active between me and my siblings, like trying to get, because, my one brother lives in Kentucky and my sister's up near, basically Toledo. And then I'm in New York now. And like, so it takes more of an effort, but people are making more of an effort.
That's good.
In my family, it feels like.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
great.
before, it's almost like, whatever, dude, I'll see you at Christmas, no big deal. And now it's like, oh, damn, sometimes there's not Christmases for everybody. You know what I mean? Some people don't go to Christmas anymore.
Right.
So you better figure this out now.
Alan, I have peaches from a peach truck that are ripe. And so I decided to try a BLP for lunch today, and it was damn good. Of course it's damn good. So I'm trying to tell you. Get yourself a BLP. Remember the BLP?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
we all
stupid
remember.
deal.
The bacon, lettuce, and peach. You swap out that tomato for a peach, and man, you want to talk about it. You want to talk about being saved. You want to talk about being saved from boring sandwiches. There it is.
Shout out hallelujah with a bite.
Shout out hallelujah. There was somebody, people who post like clickbaity questions all the time on social media, pop culture ones, not political or anything like that. And one of them was, what was the first movie that made you cry? And it was E.T. for me, which came out 42 years ago today. The E.T. movie, boy. My parents took us because they had been running the commercials for E.T. nonstop. And how old was I? I was about to turn 11. And we wanted to go see E.T. And every kid who saw that movie, because they made it happen, boy. They made sure Everybody was crying in that movie theater. Like grown-ups were crying, because there's a bit of a bait and switch with that movie. And there was some kind of documentary or something about how they were fully planning on making an E.T. sequel. And they never got around to it, or they wanted, I forget what it was, but yeah, the E.T. and I ended up with like an E.T. doll at Christmas and, but that movie was just massive. It only cost them $10 million to make E.T., which in 1982 was a lot. It was a lot of money, but it made $800 million.
Which is crazy.
And so E.T.
is a movie I never have
I don't
been
think
into.
I've ever seen it.
It's one that like
It's a Gen X kid movie.
it is, but I like was in that age range. I was like, it never connected with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Like I didn't dislike it or anything. Like it was just another movie to me.
Yeah.
Where there are some people that are like, this is such a great movie, and I was just like, well, I knew it. I figured out pretty early on that in most kids movies they don't kill the main character. So when he was sick and like
then Disney said, "Let me hold my beer." Like,
Yeah, right.
go ahead
No,
and
but
have
I mean,
We're
they
gonna
don't kill the
start
main
with killing your
character.
parents. No.
They'll kill your parents, but then that became formulaic too. Like I can't even think of the first movie that made me cry. It was not till I was
Lion
an
King.
adult. Lion King did not make me cry.
Lion King had
I-
me sobbing.
But you were like in
knew.
kindergarten then, right?
Yeah, I was like 7. I was like prime age for Lion King to make me cry.
Well, that's
you
what
know?
I'm saying. A movie didn't make me cry until I was almost 11 years old.
I kind of knew that was coming. Like in the trailers, like you kind of knew that Mufasa was gonna die.
But that doesn't matter. It's like the whole emotional buildup of it, and him and his dad having the moments that they had.
Yeah, you don't know
Yeah,
how.
I didn't.
Right.
I just was like, yeah, these songs are pretty fun. Like it wasn't. It wasn't that movie was not that emotional to me,
Oh,
and it was probably just repressed things that I was going through with my own family, where I'm like, I don't care if my dad dies.
how old were you though? That was like 1995.
Yeah.
When did Lion King come out? So you were
93,
only
I
This
thought.
stuff didn't start when I was 20. I've been going through this my whole life.
No, I'm saying you wanted your dad to die when you were 9.
No,
or
I didn't.
however old?
I don't really want my dad to die. I just was like, it was more
94.
the predictability
How old were you
of
in
it.
1994?
23.
12 years old. But it was just like, and I was like, well, also, what's the lifespan of a lion anyway? Kind of like
you
I was.
were not.
I swear,
Nature's
I
wild.
wasn't.
12 years old, you were like, well, lions only live to be like 9 anyway.
No, I
For
just.
an animated
I'm
film.
just telling
We're
you,
not.
I saw that movie in the theater, and I was not emotional when, like, I was like, he died, but I wasn't like, I wasn't bawling or crying.
Because
Dude,
it's a cartoon too.
Doesn't matter.
So yeah,
When-
they're drawing.
when-
That drawing died.
Dude,
No, because,
screw
like-
you guys.
As an adult, I was way more emotional going to see. Like I remember losing my mind in Inside Out when Bing Bong had to go.
No, I still haven't seen it.
That's a good one. The second one comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
It wasn't Mufasa dying that made me cry. It was when Simba came up to him and was trying to wake him up, and he's like pulling on his ear, and he
Yeah.
like gets underneath.
See, I'm
his
more close.
paw.
I'm closer to crying now, and also I think it was one of those things where I cried a lot until I was about 10 years old. Like my mom, like they hated me crying, so like I really, really pushed back any feelings that I
Yeah.
had. Whereas like I can't cry. You're not supposed to cry. You're a boy. Boys don't
Yeah.
cry. That kind of thing.
Hey, Robert Smith said it.
When
Yeah.
he got in underneath Mufasa's paw, and he's like, "Somebody, anybody."
Yeah,
help."
like I'm more
"What?"
on the brink of tears now than I was
Sobbing.
then.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, so you were you were cut from Boys Don't Cry cloth. I thought
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was this. They didn't know. A lot of parents didn't know how to handle a kid that was crying.
Right.
Like,
If I was crying, like my mom, she taught me techniques like that they use for torture to keep myself from crying.
bite the inside of your mouth.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like pinch your elbow skin and twist it so you're focused on that pain, and then your emotional, the emotions that are welling up in you will go away. Like that.
Well, what was the point of that?
So I didn't get bullied for crying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she was worried about you getting bullied.
Right.
Well, that's different. That's
Right.
different than your parents going, and
Well, and it was part of the bullying was coming from my dad too. So
Yeah.
Your mom was giving you
Yeah.
techniques on
She's
how to
like,
not
"Stop
get
crying in front of
bullied
your dad."
by
Yes.
your
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
Wow.
See, my dad was very anti-crying, but I think just because it aggravated him. Like, because he had 5 kids and we were poor and we didn't have money. And the phrase, I mean, 2 very, very cliche phrases my dad always said were, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Well,
but
yeah.
he would. I mean, their belt came very swiftly after that. And then the other one, he would always say, crying doesn't solve anything. Whereas, like, if crying solved my problems, I'd cry every day. I have more problems than you'll ever have. You see me crying? Like, so he would minimize whatever our problems were and make us feel guilty about crying about them.
Well, he was probably frustrated, too, because you guys didn't have any money because of him.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. But I didn't know that when I was 11.
No, I understand,
And I wanted
but
to go
he
to the
did,
movies
is what
and
I'm
I wasn't
saying.
allowed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Not allowed.
I cried a lot as a little kid. And then, like, through my parents' divorce. And then when I moved in with my dad, he was every day with that crying doesn't solve anything, crying doesn't solve anything. And then I didn't cry really again until I was in, like, my 20s. There's probably 16 to, like, 22 where there was not a lot of crying.
And a lot of
happening.
those parents, I mean, some parents have their own ulterior motives. Some parents, they're just doing the best they can. But when that's the route you go, you're just kicking that can down the road.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, the parents are like, I need this to be down there, so it's until it's not my problem anymore, until you're out in the world, and then you can deal with it.
I remember in college,
Spend
my
half
dad-
your life biting the inside of your mouth.
my dad and I would get in fights and I'd cry and he would tell me to another phrase he would use all the time. I'll talk to you when you can act like an adult. Adults don't cry. And when you're ready to have an adult conversation, we can have an adult conversation. And I hated when he would say that to me because I'm like, hey, ass, you're the one making me cry. And now you're going to tell me I'm not an adult because of the mean things you're saying to me.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like very against crying.
My dad would say, crap in one hand and wish in the other and see what you got more of.
Clap them together.
Yeah. Well, because my dad was a conservative guy and military and all that, but we were not like boys don't cry house. So I didn't get any of that. But, and I'm surprised in retrospect because that would be right up his alley. But we never got that. But
You were allowed to have emotions?
yeah, sure.
Even as a Catholic?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, when you grow up Catholic, you're constantly told you're not worthy of anything, right? You're lucky to be alive. It's only by the grace of God. You're not worthy. Oh, thank you so much for letting me walk around. And, so I think my parents were, because my dad wasn't Catholic. He converted later on for my mom, but that was like when I was in college. So my dad was very much neutral on that whole thing. And he was kind of like, yeah, all right, well, if you got to let something out, let it out. But then get back to work. That was kind of his thing, If you got to blow it out, but then get back to what you were doing before.
I just couldn't even communicate anything with my dad. There was no moment where I'd be like, hey, Dad, this is a thing I like and I want to do it with you. It was always just like, just get through the day and then just,
Don't make him mad.
Yeah, don't make him mad. That was
Wow.
our job. Don't make Dad mad.
Yeah. That's pretty old school.
And also, and then it seemed like the only thing he ever wanted us to do was chores. So
Right.
you'd also try to avoid him because he's never like, hey, let's go have fun. He's like, hey, do work.
Doesn't give you a task.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway, E.T., 42 years ago today. First movie that made me cry.
That divulged into everyone being like, well, my dad's trauma.
It really did. Yeah, that wasn't an entree into opening up the wounds, but there it is.
Man.
E.T. was the movie that surpassed Star Wars as the highest grossing film of all time, and it was that for a long time before Jurassic Park.